Have you ever gotten really angry because someone hurt you, only to later realize they never meant to? There's an old story. A man was rowing his boat down a quiet river. The water was calm, the wind was gentle. Then, suddenly, another boat came drifting toward him. He shouted, "Watch out! Move away!" But the boat kept coming and crashed right into his. Anger exploded in his chest. He was about to unleash all that rage until he looked closer. There was no one in the other boat. It was empty. No one steering it. No one to blame. It was just a boat carried by the current. In that moment, it raises a powerful question. If someone had been in that boat, would he have gotten even angrier? And if there wasn't anyone, why was he so angry in the first place? Now let me ask you this. Have you ever been so stuck in the worries of tomorrow or regrets from yesterday that you forgot to enjoy what's good about today? There's another story. A monk is being chased by a wild tiger. He runs to the edge of a cliff and grabs a vine, dangling over the edge. Below him, another tiger waits. Above is danger, below is death. But right there, hanging between fear and the unknown, he sees a wild strawberry, red and ripe, growing on the cliffside. He reaches for it, takes a bite, and smiles. It was the sweetest strawberry he's ever tasted. In that moment, he wasn't afraid. He wasn't thinking about the tigers. He was just there, just present. Now let me ask you something else. Are you still carrying something in your heart that's long gone, but still weighs heavy on your soul? Two monks were walking down a muddy path. They saw a woman in fine clothes, unable to cross. One of them picked her up and carried her across the mud. Hours later, the other monk finally spoke. "We're monks. We're not supposed to touch women." The first monk simply smiled and said, "I put her down hours ago. Are you still carrying her?" That story asks a gentle but powerful question. How many people are you still carrying in your mind, even though you could have set them down long ago? We live in a world full of empty boats, wild strawberries, and invisible burdens. Sometimes we're angry, but we don't even know who we're angry at. Sometimes we forget to enjoy the small things because our mind is tangled in what's been lost or what hasn't arrived. And sometimes we hold on to things that don't exist anymore, as if they still define us. But if we just take one step back and look more deeply, we might see that these simple Zen stories, though short and unassuming, hold the keys to unlock some of the tightest knots inside us. They don't preach doctrine with complicated words. They whisper truth through stillness, through presence, through the everyday wisdom of how we face what is. And so, I invite you now to come with me on this journey, a gentle but transformative path where short stories carry the timeless wisdom of the Buddha. Part 1. The Two Arrows. One morning at a small Zen center in the suburbs of California, a woman in her 40s came to see me. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep. She whispered, "I can't let go of the pain. It keeps repeating in my mind, over and over, every single day." I didn't rush to give advice. I simply sat with her and gently shared a story the Buddha once told, the story of the two arrows. He said that in life, each of us will be struck by one arrow, the arrow of pain. It might be the death of a loved one, a breakup, a sudden illness, or a harsh word that cuts deep. That first arrow is real. It hurts, and no one is immune to it. But then, most of us go on to shoot ourselves with a second arrow. This one doesn't come from the outside world. It comes from within how we react to that pain. We start asking, why me? This shouldn't have happened. What did I do wrong? We blame others. We blame ourselves. We blame fate. We replay scenes in our mind. If only I had said something else. If I hadn't trusted them. If the doctor had caught it earlier. And the pain lingers. Not because the first arrow is still there, but because we keep twisting the second one deeper. The Buddha called this dukkhathi suffering that arises from our mind's resistance. He taught, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. Pain comes with being human, but suffering, how we prolong the pain, that's something we can choose to let go of. Over the years, working with people dealing with grief, a lost parent, a runaway child, a betrayed spouse, I've learned something. What hurts the most isn't the event itself. It's the unanswered questions that loop endlessly in their minds. A father loses his child in an accident. He can't forgive himself. If only I had picked him up earlier that day. A woman is betrayed by her partner. Every night she asks herself, what did I do wrong? Was I not enough? These questions are like arrow number 2, and 3, and 4. Each one slowly breaks them down. But then, there's a shift. When they finally sit down, take a deep breath, and simply say, yes, it happened. It hurt. But I don't have to keep hurting myself anymore. In that very moment, something deep inside begins to soften, like a clenched fist. Finally, letting go. You see, the Buddha wasn't a god offering miracles. He didn't promise to take away our pain. What he offered was a way of seeing, like someone lighting a lamp in a dark room. He said, pain is part of life, but if you can avoid the first arrow, good. If not, you don't need to shoot yourself with the second. This isn't some lofty philosophy. It's a life skill, a practice of mindfulness, especially when emotions rise up. A friend betrays us. Instead of drowning in anger, we pause and ask, do I really need to carry this bitterness forever? A plan falls apart. It hurts. But then we breathe and see, I'm still alive. The sun still rises. This isn't the end. For a time, I worked with people nearing the end of their lives. Most had let go of everything except their thoughts. And I noticed something. What caused them the deepest pain wasn't what had happened. It was what they hadn't forgiven. They didn't suffer anymore over jobs lost or words said. They suffered because they carried that second arrow for decades. But even in their final days, there was still a chance. When they learned to say, yes, it hurt, but I choose forgiveness. I choose peace. And in that moment, their face lit up like a morning sunrise. In Zen, there's a beautiful image. The mind is like a still lake. When a stone drops in, ripples form. But if we stop throwing in more stones, the lake will settle again. The pain, that's the first stone. But if we keep tossing in thoughts, regrets, blame, our heart will never find stillness. So if today you're hurting, pause for a moment, look within, and ask yourself, am I carrying just the first arrow, or am I also holding the second? If it's the second, you have the power to put it down, not by forgetting, but by accepting. Yes, it happened, and I won't keep hurting myself for it. When you see clearly, you begin to step out of the cycle of suffering. You don't have to become a monk. You don't have to leave the world behind. You just have to learn to see your pain as it is. No exaggeration, no storyline, just truth. Part 2. The glass is already broken. There's a saying in Zen that sounds strange the first time you hear it. This glass is already broken. Now, the glass isn't broken. It's perfectly fine. No cracks, no chips, standing there just as it should. But the old Zen master who said it looked at the glass, gently placed his hand on it, and smiled as if he could already see what was to come. A young student beside him asked, "But Master, the glass is still whole. Why do you say it's already broken?" The teacher replied, "Because one day, this glass will fall, or it will crack, or time will wear it down. That's a fact. And because I know that now, every time I hold it, I appreciate it fully. I drink tea from it without fear. I admire it without regret. In this fast-moving, ever-changing world we live in, that might just be one of the most important teachings we could hold on to. Live as if everything in your hands will one day be gone. Not to live in fear, but to love deeper, appreciate more, and be fully present. Like today might be the last." At a Dharma talk with a group of elderly Buddhists in New York, a woman shared how she felt disconnected from her grandchildren. "They're growing up, going off to school, starting families, and I feel the distance getting wider," she said with tears in her voice. And suddenly, the image of that glass came to mind. So I gently offered her this. "Maybe it's time to hold your grandchild's hand like it's the last time. If you know the glass is already broken, you stop taking what's here for granted." Some of us have lost loved ones without ever getting the chance to say sorry. Others look at old photos and wish they had smiled more, forgiven sooner, loved with their whole hearts. But once time has passed, there's no way to turn it back. Yet if we can live with the awareness that everything is already broken, but still right here in our hands, then every moment becomes sacred. We stop rushing. We stop saying, "I'll do it tomorrow." We stop missing what matters most. The Buddha taught, all conditioned things are impermanent. When you see this with wisdom, you let go of clinging and find peace. Beauty, youth, love, health, even this life itself, they all flow like water through our hands. If we don't look directly at that truth, we spend our lives fearing loss, as if we could somehow hold on forever. But here's the paradox. When we accept that everything changes, that everything will be lost, we love better. We care more. We forgive more easily. Because there's nothing left to cling to, everything becomes precious. A child cries when their favorite toy breaks, then smiles again when you pull them into a hug. We're not that different. It's just that our toys have changed. A relationship, a title, a house, a person. And when one of those toys breaks, we cry. We regret. We hold on to pain. But with the eyes of awareness, we can begin to see the glass is already broken. So today, while it's still in your hands, fill it with gratitude. Sip this cup of tea slowly. Look at your loved one, really look. Say, "I love you," like there might be no tomorrow. In Zen, there's a practice called contemplation on impermanence. Not to make us sad, but to awaken us to the beauty of now. There was a man in the western US who lost his wife, and he once said something that brought silence to the whole room. "I knew she wouldn't be with me forever. I just didn't think forever would come so soon." And then he added, "I wish I hadn't been so busy that day. I wish I had put my phone down and looked at her a little longer." But "I wish" has no rewind button. Take a look around you. The chair you're sitting in, the candle burning gently, the photo on the wall, each one will crack, fade, or fall. But right now they're still here, still waiting for your attention, your presence, your touch. Your loved ones, your parents, your partner, your children, they're just like that glass, still with you today. But one day, they won't be. And somehow, knowing that softens the heart. It makes us more present, more grateful, more alive. If there's something in your heart that feels heavy, a broken relationship, a loved one growing ill, a farewell approaching. Don't run away from it. Look at it clearly, gently, with mindful awareness, and then ask yourself, how would I live today if I truly understood that this glass is already broken? Because it's in that very impermanence that true love begins. Not love that clings, but love that sees. Being here today is enough. Part 3. The gift not accepted. There's a well-known story in Zen and Buddhist teachings. It's been told many times. Yet every time I hear it, it still gives me pause. One day, the Buddha was giving a Dharma talk in a quiet forest. The leaves swayed gently in the breeze. The stillness was so deep you could hear the soft breathing of the monk sitting nearby. Suddenly, a man appeared in the distance. His face was flushed red with anger. His eyes burned with rage. Without being invited, he stormed right up to the Buddha and started shouting. He called the Buddha a fraud. He mocked him loudly. What makes you so special that people treat you like a master? His voice cut through the calm, throwing insults, hurling accusations, right in front of everyone, in the heart of the silent forest. But through it all, the Buddha stayed quiet. He simply looked at the man with compassion, the way a father might look at a child writhing in fever. This only made the man angrier. What? Are you mute? Why won't you defend yourself? Aren't you ashamed? And finally, after a long pause, the Buddha gently spoke. Let me ask you something. If someone offers you a gift but you don't accept it, then who does the gift belong to? The man looked confused for a moment. It seemed like a random question, but he replied, well, it still belongs to the one who offered it. The Buddha smiled. Exactly. In the same way, all the anger and insults you brought here today, I do not accept them. They are still yours, and you will be the one to carry them. It's a simple story, but within it lies a powerful teaching on how we can step out of the cycle of hurt and anger. In daily life, we all face situations like this. Someone says something cruel, gives us a cold look, does something that makes us feel small or disrespected. And what do we usually do? We react. We push back. We strike back. But when we do that, it's like accepting a poisoned gift. We hold it. We open it. And little by little, we let it seep into us. That one comment starts replaying in our heads. That person's face flashes every time we close our eyes. And even though they've walked away, we keep living with the anger. At a meditation retreat in Oregon, a man once shared that he had carried anger toward his father for over 30 years. When he was a boy, his dad once said, "You'll never amount to anything." Even though he had grown up, built a life, had a family, a home, a career, that one sentence never left him. He said, "It's not my father saying it anymore. It's me," repeating it to myself every day. His father handed him that gift just once, but he accepted it and carried it for a lifetime. The Buddha once said, "Holding on to anger is like picking up a hot coal to throw at someone. You're the one who gets burned." When we hold on to anger, we are the first to suffer. And sadly, many people live their whole lives without ever setting that coal down. After a Dharma talk in Los Angeles, a woman came to me. She had cared for her mother in her final years. But when her mom passed, the rest of the family turned on her, fighting over inheritance, throwing harsh words, questioning her intentions. She asked, through tears, "How do I forgive them when they never even apologized?" The answer really is in the story of the gift. Because forgiveness isn't about whether the other person deserves it. It's about whether you deserve peace. Not accepting the gift means, I'm not going to keep living with the garbage of the past. It doesn't mean we say what they did was okay. It means we stop letting their actions control our hearts. One of the most beautiful truths in Buddhism is this: we can't control what others do, but we can control whether we let it into our minds and hearts. When someone lashes out at you, you don't have to look at them with hatred. You can look at them with understanding. Maybe they're hurting. Maybe no one's ever truly listened to them. Maybe they're just throwing out their suffering because they don't know what else to do with it. And in that moment, instead of reacting, you can simply not receive it. In Zen, there's a practice called returning to the breath before responding. Just one inhale, one exhale can stop you from becoming the receiver of that poison gift. The Buddha wasn't silent because he was weak. He just didn't feel the need to take in what didn't belong to him. True strength isn't in the comeback. It's in keeping your peace when someone else tries to take it away. So if today you feel hurt by someone's words, their actions, or even their silence, ask yourself, am I holding a gift that was never mine? And if the answer is yes, maybe it's time to gently lay it down. Not because they deserve forgiveness, but because your heart deserves to be free. Part 4. Between two tigers and a strawberry. There's an old Zen story. It's incredibly short, just a few lines. But if you listen with your heart, it might just open up a whole new way of living. The story goes like this. One day, a monk was walking through the forest when suddenly he heard a terrifying roar behind him. He turned around and saw a huge tiger charging straight at him. Its eyes were blazing, claws ready to tear through anything in its path. Survival instincts kicked in. The monk ran as fast as he could, but the path ended at the edge of a cliff. No way forward, nowhere to go. Just in time, he spotted a vine hanging down from the rocky ledge. Without a second thought, he grabbed it and swung himself over the edge. Below him, a deep, dark ravine, and at the bottom another tiger, waiting. One danger above, another below. He was dangling between life and death. And then, as he looked to the side, he noticed a small wild strawberry bush growing out of the cliffside. Right within reach was a single ripe red strawberry. He reached out, picked it, took a bite, and smiled. Now, some people might laugh and say, he's about to die and he's eating strawberries. But within that tiny story is a deep wisdom about fully living in the present moment. The two tigers, one above and one below, represent the past and the future. Behind us, what's already happened can't be changed. Ahead of us, what has yet to come can't be predicted. And the strawberry? That's now, this very moment where life is actually happening. So many of us go through life without ever tasting the strawberry because we're always stuck between the two tigers. A man once told me that every morning, the moment he woke up, his mind would start racing. I shouldn't have said that yesterday. If only I'd made a different choice back then. I don't know what's going to happen next week. And the whole morning would pass by without him really seeing the sunlight streaming through his window, without tasting the richness of the coffee in his hand, without hearing the sound of his child's laughter in the kitchen. All those beautiful things, they were there. But he wasn't. Just like the monk, he had a strawberry right beside him. But he was too busy worrying about the tiger above and fearing the one below. The Buddha said, do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment. Not because he denied the pain of the past or ignored the uncertainty of the future, but because the present is the only place we can truly live, breathe, love, and awaken. The past is a shadow. The future is a dream. Only this moment is real. One evening during a meditation retreat in Colorado, an elderly woman shared a story. She had cared for her mother with Alzheimer's for 5 years. Each day, her mother forgot more. Forgot names, forgot the way to her room, eventually forgot the very eyes that once nurtured her. The daughter had felt angry, hurt. She used to ask, "Why doesn't she remember me anymore?" But one day, while helping her mother eat, she paused, took a deep breath, and instead of looking at the memories that had faded, she looked into the eyes that were still there. She said, "My mother wasn't who she used to be, but she was still a living human being, still deserving of love. And I was there for her in that moment, no longer needing the past to return, no longer asking the future to be different." And then she said, "That day, I finally tasted the strawberry." The truth is, none of us can escape the tigers. We all carry wounds from yesterday. We all face uncertainty about tomorrow. But there's always a strawberry, ripening right here, in this moment. Maybe it's the cool feeling of water on your hands while washing dishes, the sound of wind brushing past your window, the quiet gaze of someone you love. And if you're truly present, you'll realize happiness was never far away. The Buddha once said, "There is no path to happiness. Happiness is the path." There's no destination where happiness begins. It's in the way we walk, in the way we breathe, in how we taste the strawberry, even knowing the tigers are near. So if today you're feeling anxious, regretful, torn between your past and your future, try stopping for a moment. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, what is my strawberry today? It might be something small, but it could be just enough to nourish you, just enough to remind you that you're still alive, and that life, however fragile, is offering you its most precious gift. This moment, Part 5, The Empty Boat. Have you ever felt peaceful, and then suddenly, someone crashed into your life like an unexpected collision? Maybe it was a rude comment, a cold glance, an action that made you feel disrespected or hurt. And just like that, you got angry, frustrated, your mind spinning with questions. Why would they do that? What are they thinking of me? I don't deserve to be treated this way. Often, what triggers the anger isn't just what happened, but the belief that someone intentionally tried to hurt you. But what if that boat that just hit you had no one steering it? There's a famous Zen story that goes like this. One early morning, a man was rowing his boat down a quiet river. The water was still. A soft mist floated above the surface. His mind felt just as calm. Suddenly, out of the fog, another boat appeared silently. No sounds, no warning, and it slammed into his. Immediately, the man got furious. Who the heck is steering this boat? He was ready to yell, maybe even fight. But then, he looked closer. There was no one in the boat. It was completely empty, just drifting along, pushed by the current. No one meant to hit him. No one meant to cause harm. And in that moment, his anger vanished. There was no one to blame, no reason to explode, just stillness and a quiet realization. You see, so often in life, we're just like that man. Something crashes into us. A mean comment, a rude action, someone's carelessness. And our first reaction is outrage. They meant to hurt me. They don't respect me. They're awful people, and we carry that anger home into the next day, sometimes for months, even years. But what if we paused, took a breath, and asked ourselves, did they really mean it? Maybe they just lost their job. Maybe they're going through something at home. Maybe they were never taught how to act kindly. Maybe they didn't even realize they hurt someone. The Buddha once said, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. When we believe someone intentionally harmed us, we suffer not because of the event itself, but because of the story we attach to it. We turn that person into an enemy and imprison ourselves in resentment. But if we can see the emptiness in many of these collisions, we can let go of some of that weight. Not every harsh word is aimed at you. Not every cold look is meant to wound. Not everyone has bad intentions. Sometimes they're just drifting along like an empty boat. And you, if you're mindful enough, can choose not to get angry. One Buddhist practitioner once shared this at a meditation retreat in Oregon. He said one day he was driving when another car suddenly cut in front of him. He nearly slammed into a pole. His heart pounded, hands shook, and rage flared up instantly. Normally he'd shout, "Chase them," try to teach them a lesson. But that day, for some reason, he remembered the empty boat. Instead of feeding the anger, he asked himself, "Am I sure they did it on purpose?" And then he exhaled, gently, not because he was being extra kind, but because he didn't want to drink the poison anymore. In today's world, it's easy to become overly sensitive and defensive. A message without an emoji can feel like someone's mad. A passing glance can feel like judgment. That's why mindfulness practice isn't just about sitting silently on a cushion. It's about learning to see the emptiness in so many boats in our life, not blindly trusting every thought the mind throws at us, not rushing to label someone bad before we know their story. If we look at each bump or clash with a lens of understanding, we might realize no one actually hit us. Maybe it was just an empty boat floating down this wild river of life. And you, if you stay awake, can choose peace over poison. Life doesn't promise you won't get bumped, but the Dharma teaches you can choose how you respond. You can learn to see everything through the story of the empty boat and free yourself from suffering born of misunderstanding and assumption. Part 6. The Two Monks and the Woman. Some things happen in just a single moment, yet we carry them for months, years sometimes, a lifetime. A small argument, and people stay silent for 10 years. A single look, a careless comment, a misunderstanding, and our hearts hold on as if it's a wound that will never heal. There's an old Zen story that goes like this. Two monks were walking back to their monastery. They traveled across mountain paths, through small villages. After hours of walking, they reached a stream swollen and fast flowing from the rain the night before. On the riverbank, a young woman stood in hesitation. She wore a silk dress, delicate shoes, her face filled with worry. When she saw the two monks, she asked, "Please, kind sirs, could you help me across the stream? I can't cross it on my own." Without a word, the older monk stepped forward. He gently lifted her in his arms, carried her across the water, placed her down safely on the other side, and continued walking as if nothing had happened. But the younger monk, walking beside him, stayed silent, mile after mile, face tense, eyes downcast. Finally, unable to hold it in any longer, the younger monk burst out, "Brother, we are monks. We're not supposed to touch women. Why did you carry her?" The elder smiled and replied softly, "I set her down by the stream hours ago. But you, why are you still carrying her?" And that's it. That's the story. Simple, but it holds a powerful truth many of us need to hear. There are burdens we no longer carry on our backs, but we still carry them in our minds. We say, "I've moved on." But every time we think of that moment, the heart still clenches. Like the younger monk who never carried the woman physically, but held on to her far heavier than the one who did. In life, we often carry others across the stream in a symbolic way. We help someone, we do the right thing, but then we dwell on it endlessly. Or the opposite, someone hurt us. A breakup, a harsh word, a misunderstanding. It happened long ago, but we still hold on to it, like it defines who we are. The Buddha once said, "Let go like a snake shedding its skin. Do not cling to the old layer, it no longer belongs to you." If we don't learn to set the burden down, we can't walk freely. If we keep replaying someone in our mind, we're letting them stay, even though they left long ago. A woman once shared this at a Dharma talk in Los Angeles. She said she hadn't spoken to her sister in 18 years, all because of a loan that was never paid back. Every time she thought of it, she'd cry, filled with anger, pain, resentment. But when she heard the story of the two monks and the woman, she went silent. She realized she was the one carrying her sister for nearly 2 decades, while her sister had probably let it go long ago. She asked herself, "I've held on to this for so long. Who has suffered more?" The answer was clear, and her tears that day came not from sorrow, but from release. In this chaotic world, we're all carrying something. A regret, an old grudge, someone we still can't forgive. But unless we learn to let go, our bag of memories will grow heavier each day. We'll miss the beauty of the present moment. We'll stop hearing the birds outside our window. We'll lose touch with happiness, even if it's right here, now. And sometimes, letting go isn't weakness. It's courage. Courage to stop carrying what no longer serves us. Courage to live like a falling leaf, free from clinging, free from regret. The real question isn't, "Who hurt me?" but rather, "Have I been carrying this too long?" And more importantly, am I ready to put it down right now? Part 7. The cup is already full. You know, there's a strange paradox in life. The more we learn, the more we know. Sometimes, the harder it becomes to truly receive something new. Not because the new knowledge is wrong, not because we're not smart enough, but because the cup in our mind is already full. So full that no matter how much is poured in, it just spills over. There's a famous Zen story that begins with a cup of tea. A long time ago, there was a well-known professor, very intelligent, well-read, and deeply respected in the field of Eastern philosophy. He taught at a prestigious university, and one day, he went to visit a Zen master. He wanted to learn about Zen, something that Western books still couldn't quite explain. The Zen master welcomed him, smiled gently, and didn't say much. He simply poured some tea. The professor began talking a lot. He explained all the books he had read, what he understood about the mind, consciousness, enlightenment. He talked and talked as if to prove he was ready for something greater. Meanwhile, the Zen master kept pouring the tea until the cup was full, and he kept pouring. The tea spilled over, into the saucer, onto the table. The professor shouted, "Stop! The cup is full. Why are you still pouring?" The Zen master looked at him and said quietly, "Just like this cup, your mind is full of opinions, theories, and what you think you know. How can I pour anything new unless you first empty your cup?" One simple act, yet it holds a lesson that still echoes today. So many of us are like that professor. We go around seeking, learning, listening, but we're not really open to receiving. We listen, but only to debate. We study, but only to confirm what we already believe. We chase truth, but fear letting go of what's familiar. In the Dhammapada, the Buddha said, "The fool who thinks he is wise is truly ignorant, for his view is clouded. But the one who is truly wise is the one who knows how to empty their mind and learn from every moment." Now, this doesn't mean being blank or thoughtless. It means being open enough to receive what's true, even when it challenges old beliefs. There was once a young student who came to the monastery, eager to learn. He always carried a notebook. He wrote down everything the teacher said diligently, without missing a word. But every time he was asked, "Do you truly understand this?" he'd go quiet, because in his mind, there was always something running. This matches what I read in that book. That doesn't sound like what I learned before. I think it should be explained differently. Eventually, the teacher stopped teaching him. Instead, he simply invited the boy to sit by the fire and listen to the sound of burning wood. Once, twice, days passed. And one day, the student began to cry. Not because he understood some great idea, but because, for the first time, his mind was truly quiet. No words. No arguments. No, "I already know this." Just presence. Just being there, fully. Sometimes, real spiritual growth doesn't come from learning more. It comes from letting go of what we've been clinging to. A belief. A judgment. A need to be right. Because only when the cup is empty can it be filled. Only when the mind is open can awakening begin. So today, as you're listening, ask yourself, is my cup already too full? And if it is, that's okay. We've all been there. But maybe, just for a moment, set it down. Empty it a little. Just a little. And you might find what you really need isn't to know more. It's to unknow just enough to truly see. Part 8. The big rock in the road. There was once a narrow road leading into a village. Right in the middle of it sat a huge rock. Every day, people passed by. Some kicked it and complained. Some tried to push or pull it, then gave up. Others just stood there, sighed, and blamed someone else for not moving it. But that rock, it stayed right where it was, day after day. Everyone was busy, yet no one thought to step back, look a little closer, and realize there was another path. Then one day, an old Zen monk came to the village. He didn't try to move the rock. He didn't blame anyone. He simply brushed aside the weeds, cleared a narrow path around the edge just wide enough for one person to pass through. And then he smiled and said, "Not every rock needs to be removed. Sometimes you just need to change the way you walk." That story might sound simple, but if you sit with it for a moment, it might be exactly what you need to hear today. In life, we all have our own rocks. A past wound that hasn't healed, a difficult person in the family, a constant feeling of unease, or maybe just a long, drawn-out situation that isn't getting any better. We've tried everything to push it away, tried to forget it, tried to fix it, tried to change others. But the more we try, the more exhausted we feel. Just like the villagers wrestling with the stone, we forget not every obstacle needs to be removed. Sometimes, all it takes is a different perspective. And instead of asking, "How do I get rid of this?" maybe ask, "Is there a gentler way through?" In the Samyutta Nikaya, the Buddha said, "It is not the world that binds the mind, but the mind that binds the world. Often, it's not the situation that traps us. It's the way we think about it. There was a woman who once shared her story during a Dharma talk. She lived in a small apartment with her daughter-in-law and 3 grandchildren. Every day, there was noise, arguments, constant chaos. She used to think, if only I could move out, then I'd finally have peace. But that wasn't an option. One day, she sat down to meditate. No demands, no expectations, just silence. And slowly, she began to see. The sound of children running was life. Her daughter-in-law's sharp tone was unspoken worry. The messy kitchen was the hands of someone trying to care for a family. The rock in her heart started to feel a little smaller. Not because it disappeared, but because her mind had chosen a different path. Life will always have its rocks. Some spend their whole life trying to move them and end up exhausted. Others simply step around and walk on in peace. You don't need to be a warrior battling every challenge. Sometimes, wisdom is knowing when to pause and choose a different path, a lighter, deeper, and brighter one. So if right now you're facing your own big rock in life, maybe it's a past hurt, a person who let you down, a dream that didn't come true, ask yourself, am I trying to push this with anger, regret, or expectations that don't serve me? And if the answer is yes, try this. Step gently to the side. Take a deep breath. Sometimes, just a small shift in your view or your mindset is all it takes. And what you've been looking for all along might still be there, just waiting on a different path. Part 9. The Mustard Seed and Death. There's a story from the Buddhist scriptures, one that many have heard, but every time it's told, it still brings a deep, quiet stillness to the heart. It's the story of a mother ant, a loss so deep, no words could describe it. Her name was Kisa Gotami, an ordinary woman living a simple life in a small village. Until one day, her world collapsed. Her only child passed away. No warning, no goodbye. She held her child in her arms, going from house to house, begging for help. Please, someone give me medicine to save my baby. He's just asleep, isn't he? Please. People looked at her, some with pity, some with sorrow, others in silence. But her grief was so overwhelming, she could see nothing but the faint hope that someone, somewhere, could bring her child back. Eventually, someone told her to go see the Buddha. She arrived, placed the child at his feet, and pleaded, "Please, Lord, save him." The Buddha looked at her quietly for a long moment, then gently said, "I will help you, but first, bring me a handful of mustard seeds." From a home that has never known death, hope lit up in her heart. She rushed out at once. The first house, yes, they had mustard seeds. But when she asked, "Has anyone ever died here?" the answer came, "My father passed away last year." She thanked them and moved on. The second house again, they had mustard seeds, but the grandmother had died long ago. And so it went, house after house, village after village. Every home had lost someone, a child, a parent, a lover. No place untouched by death. And then she stopped, her child still resting quietly in her arms. But now she understood. It wasn't that no one wanted to help. It was that death is part of life. The pain of losing someone you love is something we all share. There is no family that hasn't faced separation, no heart that hasn't bled from loss. Kisa Gotami returned to the Buddha, but this time, she didn't bring her child. And she didn't ask for a miracle. She asked to become a nun. She went on to become one of the first ordained women in the Buddha's community, a woman whose heart had shattered and then been healed by wisdom. This story isn't just about one mother. It's about all of us. Anyone who's ever lost something, a person, a dream, a precious memory, and felt like their heart couldn't bear it. In moments of loss, the mind clings. We wish we could go back. We wish for miracles. We long for the way things used to be. But like Kisa Gautami, we must walk the path of hope to its end to realize this truth. No one moves through life without losing something. The question is, how do we see that loss? It can either break us forever or help us understand love, letting go, and the impermanence of life more deeply. The Buddha once said, "Those who love deeply suffer deeply. But when you love with wisdom, you are not destroyed by suffering." Pain is part of life, but suffering is how we choose to respond to that pain. And sometimes, just realizing that everyone has lost something, that simple knowing is what opens the door to compassion. If right now you're holding a sorrow that you can't even name, someone who's gone, something that's no longer there, let the story of Kisa Gautami whisper to your heart. You are not alone. We are all learning how to keep going, not by forgetting, but by understanding and gently letting go. Part 10. The Farmer and the Horse. In a quiet little village nestled between green mountains and rice fields, there lived a humble farmer and his son. They weren't wealthy, but they lived peacefully, working the land. Their most valuable possession was a beautiful, horsey prized animal that helped them farm. One morning, the horse disappeared. When the villagers heard, they all came rushing over with sympathy. "Oh no, that horse was everything to you. What a terrible misfortune." The farmer just smiled gently and replied, "Good luck, bad luck. Who knows?" A few days later, the horse returned bringing with it a whole herd of wild horses. Now everyone was amazed. "What a blessing. You're so lucky." The farmer, still calm, said, "Good luck, bad luck. Who knows?" A week later, while taming one of the wild horses, the farmer's son fell and broke his leg. Once again, the villagers came with concern. "What a tragedy. Your son is the only one who can help you, and now he's injured." But the farmer simply said, "Good luck, bad luck. Who knows?" Soon after, war broke out. All the young men in the village were drafted sent away to fight. Most never returned. But the farmer's son, with his broken leg, was spared. He stayed home, and he survived. Now, this story isn't just some old tale, it's a mirror. A mirror that shows us how we tend to label things in life as either good or bad far too quickly. How many times have we panicked when we lost a job? Or felt our world collapse when someone we loved walked away? We stand frozen at a closed door, not realizing another one quietly opened behind us. But what if we took a step back, looked a little longer, a little deeper? We'd see that life flows in its own mysterious rhythm, where what seems like a loss today could actually be the turning point for tomorrow's blessings. The Buddha taught, all conditioned things are impermanent, meaning everything joy or sorrow, success or failure, is always changing. It comes and it goes. When we truly understand this, our hearts soften. We stop demanding that everything go our way. And we begin to see that what we once called misfortune might simply be an unfinished thread in a greater story. One woman shared how she lost her dream job and thought her life was over. But in that space of uncertainty, she learned new skills, went back to school, and eventually started her own small business, taking control of her life for the first time. If she hadn't lost the old job, none of that would have happened. Another man was left at the altar, heartbroken and humiliated. But years later, he met someone who truly understood and supported him. He said, "Turns out that painful day was actually a gift in disguise." So maybe the real question isn't, is this good or bad? But rather, what am I learning from this? When we stop rushing to judge everything, when we allow things to unfold without sticking labels on them, life reveals layers of meaning that we were too impatient or too attached to see before. The farmer in the story wasn't superhuman. He simply lived fully in the present, accepting what came, observing what unfolded, without getting swept away in the drama of right and wrong, luck and loss. So if today you find yourself in a difficult moment, something disappointing, something heavy, ask yourself, could this be the beginning of something better? Maybe you can't see it yet, but who knows? Maybe tomorrow you will. And perhaps peace doesn't come from everything going right. Maybe it comes from not rushing to judge and learning how to smile in the middle of life's constant changes. Part 11. The Dusty Mirror. There's an old Zen story. A young student once asked his master, "Master, I want to awaken. I want to understand myself and the world. What should I do?" The master didn't answer right away. Instead, he led the student to a large mirror in the meditation hall. The mirror was covered in dust so thick you couldn't even see your reflection. Then the master said softly, "Wisdom is like this mirror, naturally clear, naturally bright. But when dust settles, no matter how much light there is, you won't see a thing." The student stood there, quietly. He got it. You don't need to add anything to the mirror. You just need to clean off the dust. In everyday life, we're often searching for complicated methods, lofty philosophies, or something greater to help us awaken. But sometimes, the path is far more simple. Clear the mind, not by adding more, but by letting go. All of us carry mental clutter. When we're hurt, we hold on to resentment. When we're criticized, we store away insecurity. When we're praised, we cling to ego. Layer by layer, the dust builds up. Not because we mean to boot, because life sticks to us. Until one day, we no longer recognize ourselves. We can't tell what's real anymore and what's just noise. The Buddha once said, "When the mind is pure, the world is pure. When the mind is chaotic, so is everything around it. When the inside is still, we see things clearly. When the mind is clean, wisdom shines through like sunlight through clear water. No extra effort needed. Just like a mirror never loses its ability to reflect. It's always there. We just have to wipe away the dust. No decoration, no effort to make it shinate, already does." One Buddhist practitioner shared this. Every morning before work, she sets aside just 10 minutes to sit quietly. No phone, no talking, nothing at all. She said, "It's not because I have extra time. It's because if I don't do this, the world pulls me in and I forget who I am." It started with 10 minutes, but after a few weeks, she noticed a shift. Her emotions didn't sweep her away so easily. That quiet inner voice once drowned out by the world started speaking again. And strangely, what she had spent so long searching for in books began rising up from within. That's wisdom. Not something to chase, not something to earn, just something waiting to wake up when the mind is still enough. In Zen, the goal isn't to seek wisdom or to run toward enlightenment. It's simply to sit, observe, and wipe away the mental dust. Then, everything returns to its true form, no longer distorted by anger, anxiety, fear, or desire. One day, someone asked a Zen master, "How do I live in peace in such a messy world?" The master replied, "Don't try to chase the mess away. Just sit still and let the dust settle." Sometimes, the answer isn't to do more, but to stop, not to resist, not to run, just to see, just to be, to touch the clarity that's always been there. If your mind feels heavy right now, if your heart is weighed down by stress, doubt, or pressure, try being still, just for a moment. Don't do anything. Just sit, like a calm lake, and let the dust settle on its own. And in that stillness, you may realize, wisdom isn't something to learn from the outside. It's something that naturally arises when your heart is quiet enough and your mind is clear enough. After all the stories we've shared, from the sweet wild strawberry between danger to the empty boat to this dusty mirror, maybe one truth is becoming clearer. Peace doesn't come from somewhere far away. Sometimes, peace is simply the moment you stop, the moment you clearly see what's happening inside you, without resisting, without clinging, without judging, just being completely present, right here, right now. Life isn't always easy. People will hurt us. We'll lose direction. Sometimes, even our own minds will become our greatest struggle. But if we learn to see everything like an empty boat, if we learn to set down the burdens we carry, like the monks crossing the river, and if we learn to let go of our assumptions, like the professor with the teacup, then the path ahead begins to open. Not because life changed, but because we changed the way we see it. And that's the heart of Buddhist practice, not to run away from life, but to walk through it with a lighter heart, clearer eyes, and a spirit that knows how to smile even in impermanence. If any of this spoke to your heart today, please consider subscribing to Buddhism Seeds. Click like if you found something meaningful. Share this video with someone who may need it, and leave us a comment so we can keep growing this mindful community together. See you on the next journey, one filled with light, peace, and wisdom.